Mortal Shell. This game came out a little while ago. Xbox, PlayStation 4, and PC. And it's definitely got some Dark Souls vibes going on. Deliberate combat, it looks like. It looks dark. And Leigh is here to talk about what makes Mortal Shell special and maybe a little bit more than just another Dark Souls.
Mm. Well, I'm a fan of the Soul series in general, the From Software kind of family of games.
Mm-hmm.
I like them very much for what they do. Um, there's many Dark Souls kind of derivatives flying around, mostly kind of, clogging up digital store shelves that aren't very good, that
Yeah.
take the wrong ideas from them.
I don't know. A lot of it is kind of dripped over into just like other games as well, not necessarily going for the soul stuff too, like combat in other games and stuff like that.
Mm.
Just it's kind of like it's becoming more than just a From Software thing, that's for sure.
Well, they're an easy game to make for people that aren't very good at making games because you don't have to have any progression. You just have to have everything be a brick wall,
Mm-hmm.
and people leave the nuance out of that. That's when you get the bad versions of those sort of things. You got nowhere else to go. All you know is you die in one or two hits if you're not careful. They don't build them properly and end up direct that kind of clog things up. I like more than those, though. I do like things that do something different within that and take a different tack. I like, for instance, the Surge. I'm a big fan of the Surge games,
Mm-hmm.
which kind of flips the Souls thing on his head. It's not so much about the bosses; it's more about the um, individual enemy fights that you have to overcome than anything that's big and challenging. And this is another one. This does something interesting. This is a pretty I'd say it's a low key game. I believe it's made by a 15-person team.
Okay.
Cold Symmetry. They're a new team. So the hook with this is you don't start it and have a build you want to pick. I'll take the knight or I'll take the paladin or whatever, like you do in like Souls game.
Mm-hmm.
This, you start out like a wraith type thing. It's a very fragile body you have that you could probably be killed in a hit if you're not careful.
Mm-hmm.
The hook with this is you're in a place called Fulgrim, which now I say it out loud sounds incredibly cringy.
Fulgrim?
It's a city called Fulgrim.
Oh,
Fulgrim.
Fulgrim? Okay.
Yeah. Now I say it out loud, it doesn't sound so cool. And you're a wraith that flows around. But the hook with this is you can inhabit a shell, much like the thing says of a dead knight or a kind of one of a few classes, and you can inhabit that shell. Take hits until you're killed, and then you come out of that shell
Mm-hmm.
and can go back into it for a second shot at the fight
Okay.
within the game. But once you do that, you got one hit as a resurrected shell, or you're dead and you get sent back to the beginning again. That can be counteracted by a parry system you have, which if you time it right, once you're in that kind of, you get a talisman that helps you. If you
Mm-hmm.
time it right, you can sap a chunk out of the bad guy's armor, health bar, and apply it to your own, so you're back in the battle again. And
Okay.
then that's the cycle of that. It's a pretty small window, and you have to be very precise. But it's the risk and reward thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
So that's an interesting way to take that, I think. And also, you have one of, I believe it's 4 different shells you can pick, different things. One of the shells has a super long health bar, but a tiny kind of stamina bar.
Okay. So that's like your
One,
tank, but not doing a whole lot of damage.
yeah. And you can kind of swap between these at the relative will of whenever they're available. but it means you can go through the game changing up your classes as much as you like, which is very different again to a Souls thing, isn't it? Where you have your build, you stick with it. So that's a cool way to go through that. It's a pretty interesting game. This I quite like it. It's obviously not got the refinement of something of a Souls, but then again, it's not built on the level of a Souls.
Yeah.
The design is good. It could be bigger and more interesting. Sometimes it's just a forest. Sometimes it's just a swamp. There's a cool place in this thing called the Obsidian Temple, which I feel like is where all of the budget went into, if that makes sense, because it is fascinating looking and it's big and sprawling and like odd and weird and slightly surreal.
Okay.
Everything surrounding that is a little bit kind of more cookie cutter sometimes.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes a swamp is just a swamp. Same goes with enemies. Sometimes enemies are quite boring, but sometimes you get some really cool designs. There's one. It's like a kind of a weird zombie type character. He's got loads of swords stuck in him from when he was killed, and he can pull the swords out of himself and throw them at you and stuff like that. So there are cool little designs of things like that. Yeah. What else is with this kind of different to what you know? Like I say, most of the health thing, although you do get, it's not like the flask that you get in Souls where you refill it, don't you? If I remember rightly, you refill that flask.
Yeah, you refill it every time you sit down at a bonfire.
Yeah. With this, you can pick up like mushrooms to eat off the floor, but they come with caveats of you'll eat one and it takes time for your bar to fill. So you don't really want to be quaffing that when you're in combat. So you want to have to rely on the parry and sap move and stuff like that. There aren't many weapon differences. There may be the thing that this lacks is variety. I think it's fine not having too many armor types, but I feel like there's only probably about 4 or 5 different weapon types.
Okay. Now, is it like Dark Souls where there's a lot of different kinds of weapons that fall into certain classes, or is it like Bloodborne where there are actually just a small list of weapons that you can actually find?
No, it's more like Bloodborne.
Okay.
It's a cool weapon you get called the Hammer and Sickle, which is obviously your sickle's the light attack and your hammer is the heavy attack, and you just mix and match between those. That's a pretty cool one to use.
Is that the one that takes life from the enemy and gives it to you?
No. there is one class though that changes the weapons fundamentally that the other classes don't.
Okay.
I can't remember what his name is. They've all got weird names, but that gives you access to like elemental things that you add to the weapons that you don't get with the others. There's a cool little skill tree, cool little perk trees and stuff like that. There's an interesting thing with the pickups, like for instance, the mushroom I just mentioned, which is a health pickup. It's unknown to you at first, and you pick it up. You got a bar of 10 pickups. Of every consume you have, you learn more about it. And the more you learn about it, the more benefits you have as the game goes along.
Okay.
So you
so you're like
a lot of different things to pick up.
Gaining intelligence or something like that.
Yeah, gaining intelligence. Right?
So
the cool one was I can find a loot. I don't think it does anything, but you know what a loot is, don't you?
Yeah, like an old guitar, small guitar. Yeah.
So you pick it up and you're like, what does this do? And you sit down and you try to play it, and it sounds like shit. Until you start to find a new one and pick it up, and you start to learn how to play it, and you could just sit there and play away to yourself.
Oh, so this is like Last of Us.
Yeah, but less depressing.
Oh, okay.
Despite the fact it's an underworld of misery and death,
it's called Mortal Shell.
Yeah.
So these shells, can you, once you find them, can you just like put them on wherever you want, or how does that mechanic work?
Well, you access them when you come across them, or you could choose to walk past them and stick with the one you want.
Okay, so they only
Um,
show up in certain spots. So like if you have the tank, if you have the tank one on and you come across um the like a different one, that's your only opportunity to grab it.
yeah. And also that's something that you learn more. The more you grab shells of that type as you go along,
Mm-hmm.
the more you learn about that, and the more it unlocks of stuff like that.
Okay.
It starts off your unknown. The, it's a little obtuse, the story, maybe. You do meet a few characters in there.
Oh, I mean that
Um,
has nothing in common with any of these types of games.
no. Exactly. Um, you'll meet a few characters occasionally. You'll keep meeting throughout the game. There's like a seraph you keep meeting through the game, and there's this big giant thing that's chained to a wall that you'll go back to occasionally. It works in hubs, almost like old Zelda or mid-period Zelda.
Mm-hmm.
So kind of the swamp is the hub, and then you'll go into these individual 4 or 5 different areas um, to get the boss, and then come back to the middle again to get to the end game, sort of thing.
Okay.
Um, yeah, um, I
All right.
think they're adding a lot of free extra stuff as well. They've added new looks to your armor, so it kind of changes that up. So you different given skins for your armor. So what it lacks in different armor,
Oh, okay.
you gain in aesthetics. But they're free updates. I think I've just downloaded a new free soundtrack to it.
Okay.
They've got a black metal band doing a
Sounds appropriate.
Rotting Christ, I believe, for all your favourite ballads.
Um, so is there any like additional like levels or content planned or
Not as
anything
of
like
yet.
that?
I
Okay.
don't know what's happening yet. I think it depends on how well it's done. I think it's done fairly well because it's at a decent price.
Yeah, it's like it's
Um,
$30. I can see.
yeah, I bought it on disc, and you get a nice little kind of posters and stuff like that, and little extras in the thing. So wherever you get it, there's nice little bonuses.
Okay.
It's hard to. I know it's a shorter game. I know it's not got the expanse of a Dark Souls, which can go on for as long as you like. It's
Yeah.
very difficult though to quantify how long these games are,
Mm-hmm.
because obviously it's based upon replaying sections, isn't it? So I can't say this is a 10-hour game or a 12-hour game,
Yeah.
because you could spend 12 hours in the first area, pretty much you'd die. But I
Yeah.
do believe it's if you play it properly, it's about the 10 to 12 hour thing,
Okay.
which maybe isn't so bad for something like this. Maybe maybe not being a grind might be beneficial for some people.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean
Mm,
that's always my issue with not so much Bloodborne, but the Dark Souls 1, 2, and 3 was eventually I just kind of burned out on them. Like
mm,
you'd get, I'd get Dark Souls 3 in particular. I would always get to the exact same spot because every time I
mm,
played it, I would start over. I'd get to the exact same spot, and I'd just go play something else. Not because I was stuck or didn't really was stopped enjoying it. It was just
mm,
something else caught my interest and I stopped. So the
mm,
idea of being able to uh, finish one of these types of games sounds pretty good to
mm,
me. There was another game that came out that was in the similar vein of like the Dark Souls kinds of games and
mm.
had like its own cool world. I think it came out like 2 years ago called Ashen. Um,
I've heard this one. Yeah.
yeah, that game is a very tight package. I'd say it's probably about a 10-hour experience. Kind of
Mm,
a few big open areas, but a lot of it is pretty linear, and you know, scratch that itch of kind of deliberate and requiring patience kind of combat and stuff like that, but
mm,
also having that weird, like, mysterious what's actually going on here in this world kind of story So that one I made my way through as well. So I do like completing these games. So
Yeah.
that's a bonus in my opinion.
This one has a steep start, but I think once you start really digging into that tree and start seeing the effects, it 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 won't. It'll probably be a lot easier than you would expect. But it doesn't mean it's a pushover. But it's not going to be that constant brick wall of a Souls.
Yeah,
You will feel the benefits of your upgrades towards the end. So
that's good.
maybe towards the end, it's not as significant of a challenge as if all you want is the beating, then I give it a try maybe.
Okay.
But if you're prepared to say this probably will be seem a little easy on you.
If you're
Towards the end.
prepared to win.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You got there before me. Yeah. Yeah, this is an interesting one. It's one of the better non-Souls games I've played,
Okay.
or non-From Software games I've
Yeah,
played.
non from
So,
software Souls type games.
yeah, it's got a good aesthetic.
Does it have maybe you said it and I missed it, but does it have like a bonfire mechanic where you're checkpointing at certain locations?
No,
No. Okay.
You don't do the bonfire, no,
Okay.
because it works on a hub system.
Oh, right. Okay.
It's
So
a
if you
it's
die,
a-
you go back
from-
to the hub.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
It's not as it's definitely not sprawling game. It's easily navigatable once you know the way. That's the thing that drops me out sometimes of Souls. It's so rambling with its level design
Oh, that's what I like about it.
that you just Jesus.
I love unlocking that shortcut and being like, "Oh, you motherfuckers!" Like I was at this bonfire 10 hours ago. I guess my final question would be: is there like a Souls mechanic that if you die, you lose something, and you can permanently lose something if you
No,
die again?
no, not as far
No.
as I know. Not as far as I remember. I
Okay.
don't think I lose anything.
Okay.
You might actually. Do you lose your health stuff? You might lose your health stuff, but that's about it. Your health pickups.
Okay.
I can't remember, to be honest with you. I spend so much time doing the parry move that I don't actually use much of my resources anymore.
Okay. Yeah, you're just really good at this game.
Well,
What's
yeah,
what it sounds like.
of course I am. No, I died horribly. I died horribly lots of times. As much as I like these, I'm not one of these people who are going to say I'm great at Dark Souls. I remember by the time I got to Dark Souls 3, I had a horrible time playing that, and it massacred me. But I finished it in just over a weekend, because once you've
Oh, wow.
seen all the tricks, once you see all the tricks of a Souls game, by the time you got to the third one, there's not many more things you can do with it. You know all of its wrinkles. They never really changed very much combat-wise, I don't feel.
No, the Souls
Or
games didn't. I mean,
tactic-wise.
two was kind of weird, but and for a couple of reasons. But in terms of the gameplay and your tactics and stuff like that, no, they didn't really change very much.
I was never very good at kind of beast in the game. I was always good at cheese in the game. So
Yeah.
I just learned how to cheese very good.
Yeah, find the spot where the boss can't hit you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
run like fuck.
Yeah.
Yeah, so kind of but so it there's other ways through it. But yeah, I quite like the maybe slightly more linear take to it. Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds pretty good. I'm definitely interested now to see it. Probably wait for at this point like a sale or something like that. But I'd be interested in grabbing it when I do see it. So that's Mortal Shell. That's on Xbox One, PS4, and PC. I checked and it's on the Epic Game Store on PC, and it will be coming to Steam at a later date. So if you're looking for it on PC, you'll gotta get it on Epic Game Store right now. Yeah, and there are physical copies too. So if you're a physical guy, you can grab it there.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, Leigh.
Thank you.
And we will see you next time. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please consider leaving a like and subscribing to see more. Check out voxelvoice.com for all of our great content, and consider supporting us on Patreon to keep our content ad-free and independent.